Welcome back, Grade 9. Today we're diving into G9 Biology Unit 5, Lesson 03, Algae, Plant-like Protists, and Fungus-like Protists. In this explainer, we're going to crack the biological code separating three incredibly important, yet honestly commonly confused groups of organisms. If you've ever looked at a green pond or a damp forest floor and wondered what exactly you were looking at, well, you are definitely in the right place. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit our lesson objectives, meet the organisms, look at the classification model, bust some common misconceptions, do a quick formative check, and finish up with a lesson recap. Section 1, Lesson Objectives, Setting the Rules of Biology. Let's lay down some ground rules before we start classifying things. We've got a few key goals today. By the end of this explainer, you're going to be able to distinguish algae, fungus-like protists, and true fungi based on three absolutely crucial things: how they get their energy, how their cells and structures are actually organized, and the critical roles they play out in the real world. Ultimately, you'll use these specific traits to classify familiar organisms and, of course, bust some really common myths. Section 2, Meet the Organisms, the lineup. Get ready, because these guys are literally the hidden engines of our planet. So it's a classic biological mix-up, right? Algae are this huge, diverse group of mostly aquatic organisms. They range from microscopic phytoplankton all the way to massive, multicellular seaweeds. Now, just like land plants, they've got chlorophyll, and they use photosynthesis to turn sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water into energy-rich sugars. But here is the massive difference. Algae completely lack true roots, stems, leaves, or any of those specialized vascular tissues that move water around in plants. Plus, they have this incredible trick up their sleeves. They're pigments. Depending on the species, algae can be green, brown, red, or even golden. These pigments are perfectly adapted to capture different types of light at different depths in the water. They literally form the base of aquatic food webs and pump out a massive share of the oxygen we breathe. Next up in the lineup, we have fungus-like protists. This group includes some wild organisms like slime molds and water molds. They get the name fungus-like because they absorb nutrients from decaying stuff and they often pop out spores. But they are classified in their own separate group because their evolutionary history, their life cycles, and their cells are totally different from true fungi. Take slime molds, for example. They hang out in moist places like rotting wood, and during part of their life cycle, they actually move around and feed just like an amoeba. It's wild. Water molds, on the other hand, grow as these branching filaments in wet environments. Ecologically, they're super important decomposers, recycling dead organic material, though some can act as disease-causing pathogens. Just remember, looking a bit like a fungus doesn't actually make you one. Which brings us to true fungi. The big takeaway here is that true fungi are eukaryotic heterotrophs, and most of them have cell walls beefed up by a super tough substance called chitin. Now, yeasts are an exception since they're single-celled, but many true fungi grow as these tiny thread-like structures called hyphae. When those hyphae weave together into a massive hidden network, we call it a mycelium. Fungi are also amazing team players. In a mycorrhizal relationship, this underground mycelium actually helps plant roots absorb water and minerals, and the plant pays the fungus back with sugars. And in a lichen, a fungus teams up directly with a photosynthetic partner, like an alga, so they can both survive in incredibly harsh environments where they normally just die alone. Check out this three-step feeding method, because this is where it gets crazy. Unlike you and me, fungi do not ingest their food. They are absorptive heterotrophs. Step 1, the fungus shoots digestive enzymes straight out into its surroundings. Step 2, those enzymes break down large molecules on the outside of the fungus's body. And step 3, the fungus just absorbs those pre-digested nutrients right back into its cells. It's brilliant. This is exactly how they act as nature's ultimate decomposers, recycling complex materials from dead organisms back into the ecosystem. Section 3, the classification model, biological detectives. Now it's time to play biological detective using a 3-question model to classify some mystery organisms. Question 1. Does the organism make its own food using photosynthesis? If yes, but you notice it completely lacks true plant parts, no roots, no vascular tissue, then boom, you're looking at an alga. So if you spot a green photosynthetic organism floating near the surface of a pond with absolutely no roots, that is an alga, not a land plant. Moving to question 2. Does it absorb nutrients and kind of look like a mold, but it has a protist-style life cycle? Like if you find a spore-producing organism, but its feeding stage is literally creeping around like an amoeba on damp leaves, that's a huge giveaway. You've got a fungus-like protist on your hands. like a slime mold, not a true fungus. And finally, question 3. Does it digest food externally, absorb those nutrients, and have distinct fungal traits, like chitin in its cell walls and thread-like hyphae? If you see a mold growing as hyphae straight through a piece of bread, absorbing the nutrients it's digesting on the outside, you have definitely found a true fungus. So, putting it all together, you can see how perfectly this works. Our detective model categorizes the green, rootless floater as an alga with question 1. It nabs the amoeba-like spore producer as a slime mold using question 2. And it locks in the externally digesting bread mold as a true fungus with question 3. That is how you systematically apply biological rules, right there. Section 4. Common misconceptions, shattering myths. Let's clear up a few things that constantly trip up 9th grade students. It is so tempting to look at a massive stalk of giant kelp and just assume it's a simple underwater plant. But science tells a totally different story. While they both photosynthesize, algae completely lack the specialized vascular systems, the true roots, stems, and leaves that strictly define our land plants. And here is another massive one to bust. Fungi absolutely do not make their own food. They're heterotrophs. They have to digest externally and absorb nutrients. Also, that mushroom popping up in the grass, that is not the whole fungus. It is literally just the temporary visible reproductive structure. The true body is that massive hidden mycelium network underground doing all the feeding. Oh, and remember, just because a fungus like Protist forms spores or lives in the damp doesn't make it a true fungus. Their cells and evolutionary history are completely different. Section 5. Formative check. Test your knowledge. Okay, grade 9, detective hats back on. Let's see what's stuck. Take a second to think about these 3 questions based on what we just covered. 1. Why isn't an algae a plant just because it photosynthesizes? 2. How exactly does a slime mold's feeding method differ from a true fungus? And 3. Name one ecological role they share and one trait that separates a fungus-like protist from a true fungus. Got your answers? Let's check them.
All right, here we go. Number 1, photosynthesis isn't enough because algae lack true plant organs, no real roots, stems, leaves, or vascular tissue. Number 2, a slime mold often moves around like an amoeba to feed, but a true fungus stays put, releases enzymes to digest externally, and absorbs the nutrients through its hypha. And number 3, they are both incredibly important decomposers, but they are separated by completely different evolutionary histories and cell structures, like how true fungi uniquely use chitin in their cell walls.
Section 6, Lesson Recap. The verdict. Let's bring it all home. To sum it all up, algae are our aquatic, photosynthetic producers that completely lack true plant organs. Fungus-like protists are those key decomposers that might look or act a bit like fungi, but actually belong to entirely different evolutionary groups. And true fungi, they are the ultimate absorptive heterotrophs built out of chitin cell walls, thread-like hyphae, and those massive, hidden mycelial networks. I'll leave you with this pretty wild thought. We spend so much time looking at the animals and the big trees around us, but it's actually these overlooked organisms, the microscopic producers in the water and the huge invisible fungal networks right beneath our feet that actually keep this whole world turning. Without them constantly supporting the food web and recycling nutrients, what do you think would happen to the rest of life on Earth? Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.